Hi everyone, I'm Anissa and this is Will FM's Project Showcase. In this show, we talk with founders and projects in the NFT space, otherwise known as non-fungible tokens. My guests today are Mia Deng, Xin Li-Cohen, and Audrey Ou, co-founders of TRLabs. TRLabs is a platform for discovering and collecting NFT art from the world's leading artists. Their mission is to offer extraordinary NFT work to collectors and art lovers, supported by Dragonfly Capital and founders for Artsy, Rock Bund Museum of Art, and Art 021. TRLabs is headquartered in Hong Kong with a global team access across Shanghai, Beijing, London, New York, and San Francisco. Hey guys, thank you so much for coming on. I'm extremely excited to introduce everyone to the community because we have such an eclectic mix of entrepreneurs and creatives on today's show. So just to start off, I'd love to hear a little bit about all of your backgrounds and how you got into the crypto and NFT art space. So let's start with the woman known as Christie's secret weapon, Deputy Chairman at Christie's, Xin Li. Can you walk us back on your runaway days, Christie's, and how you got into NFTs?
Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be here. And so I started getting into the crypto NFT world beginning of this year. And as we were working on the Christie's Beeple sale, and the same time Mia approached me and so started introducing me about the project she was incubating, which is a TRLabs. And so I immediately got, interested, and I really want to learn this new field. And it just feel the energy, everything is different, and you can feel this is something gonna be here to stay. And as I come from a traditional art world, I've been working in Christie's for more than 10 years, and so this new venture, it's really taking me to a bigger world. And here I am with Mia and Audrey.
I love it. That is a fantastic story. And I mean, you've been working as an entrepreneur for what, more than a decade, which is an insane amount of experience. So I love seeing this merging of the traditional and the digital art markets. I think it's about time, and I love what you guys are doing. So moving on. Mia, how did you go from doing Mobike to venture capital, then getting into NFTs? I mean, that is such an eclectic journey. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. So hey everyone, my name is Mia, and I'm a partner at Dragonfly Capital. We're a global crypto venture fund, and also investors in TRLabs. So my story. I was a product manager at Mobike, which is this O2O internet consumer startup back in China. And then really from that experience, I was seeing how data and is really kind of aggregating in a few incumbents. And then I bumped into crypto, and I saw this is the next paradigm shift. And actually before Dragonfly, I was a founding member at Amber Group, which also recently became a crypto unicorn. And with TR, I think with TRLabs, I've always had a long-standing passion for arts, and I guess dates back to the CryptoKitties times. But really, in the beginning of this year, we're really seeing more serious traction in the space, and we're looking at across the ecosystem, and thought that it's crucial to have a company like TRLabs to bridge the traditional art world and the crypto native world, as well as having this sort of native Asia angle. So that's the story.
I feel like one thing that really differentiates TRLabs from other platforms is that you guys really try to connect the East and the West, which I feel like a lot of other platforms don't really have that angle into. So it's great what you guys are doing. Again, I absolutely love it. So moving on, Audrey, how did you get to know about NFTs and this new digital art movement?
Yeah, so I am a bit new in this space as well, where I never got into crypto when I didn't know about NFTs, and NFTs is really my way into crypto. I mean, I grew up watching YouTube, really thinking deeply about the creator economy, and was also involved in the art world through my parents, where I was a tour guide for art exhibitions starting from when I was 11 or 12, where I volunteered. But then I quickly became in love with the art world. So then when I first saw NFTs, it was actually through a venture fellowship that I was doing with Olive Capital, where Olivia Wang, who's the head of US at Gen Fund, she started off her career in the crypto world in 2012. So then she said to me that I really need to check out NFTs because she thought that it was a perfect blend of my interest in art and technology, and in really focusing on how can we cater to creators more. So I started looking at the space more often, November and December. And then in April, Mia and Xin approached me together and said they would love to have me work with them together on establishing this vision for TRLabs and to bring it together as an operator and project manager. And I immediately said I would love to, because it's a perfect blend of all my interests.
I love it. I think even in one of the conversations we had earlier, but I think especially with NFTs, right? I think the people that understand this the most are teenagers and 12-year-olds. But in the next 10 to 20 years, they are the people who are going to be ruling these ecosystem, this economy. So again, beautiful journey, and I can't wait to see how you blossom in this space. So that said, after we've given the community a little bit of context on who you are, what you do, and how you got into space, let's delve into the details of what TRLabs is all about. So first question, why Tabula Rasa? And I actually had to get lessons or from a friend on how to pronounce that correctly.
Yeah, so maybe I can take this. So Tabula Rasa means blank slate in Latin. And at the time, I felt that it was a perfect name for the company because just like, it's NFT is just a blank slate for any creators, just like canvas for a painter, and the technology itself. There's no absolute right or wrong or good and bad. It's really the meaning of it is, and the value of it is really be given by the creator themselves. So I felt TRLabs mission, we're here to support and being the blank slate, and how do we make the creators better utilize this new form of medium. So hence the name, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to that is that in terms of thinking about our future, we're actually very much so thinking about what the words Tabula Rasa means. And we imagine, a digital space like similar to what a museum would do in terms of every exhibition, going from scratch to think about what the artist's works are like, what their needs are, and how we can package the space to do with it. We expect the visual identity of our website to change. Not that we won't have a core brand identity that we want to establish, but we really want to have each time we have a different drop in the future with different artists to really feel like a brand new blank slate experience for our collectors and also our artists.
Absolutely. So I think blank slate is or even just Tabula Rasa is a very fitting name for a new platform, right? I mean, it comes from the conception to the auction methods and really guiding your artists into helping their journey into the crypto space. I love to see how the slate is filled in the future and the different ways that it evolves. But I would love to understand, what was the aha moment for you guys to create TRLabs?
Okay. So the aha moment, I think when we're looking at, I think the NFT, the thesis, like from sort of Dragonfly's perspective, is that NFTs will have more of a regional effect. So unlike DeFi, right? Like there's no like American or Chinese DeFi. DeFi is like finance. It's like water. It flows across the globe. However, NFTs are subjectivity tokens, like taste tokens, right? And whereas taste is something can be more. There's more like regional sort of effect. And we're looking at investing in like NFT platforms in the East. And then we didn't really find anything as compelling yet. And so we thought that by bringing into the traditional art players and the crypto nativeness, and then here with a deep root in Asia, it would make a lot of sense. And I think and Xin and Audrey also added a ton of I think that the idea really kept evolving, and yeah, I'd love to also have them to share their perspectives.
Yeah, for sure. I will add that I think the initial aha moment is that it was sparked by a conversation, and it was, look, like, we have crypto, we have art. They're two very different, divided worlds right now. Why is that the case? In the future, we think that it should be, NFT as a medium of art and NFT as a part of art, and it didn't make sense that that the audiences were so different and the dialogues that were so different. We felt like, not exactly that art was falling behind per se, but we felt like there wasn't a platform bringing the two sides together, and that is where we had our initial spark. I will say that I think the vision of our platform and our difference and what we plan to do did evolve over time, ever since that initial spark in March. But right now, I think the two words that we're most focused on are curation and connection in terms of our long-term plans. And in the meantime is really just to, like, bridge the art and crypto community, as Mia has been involved in the crypto space for a really long time, and with Xing's expertise in the art world, we think it is a really quite perfect marriage in terms of what we can offer here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've always been a huge proponent of the fact that, right, as a platform, or as platforms are becoming more and more decentralized, so should human connection, right? So I love that you guys are bridging that gap and starting that conversation, at least, as well, and driving that conversation, bridging the East and West together. And it's funny because I was speaking to Audrey about this earlier as well, but a majority of the art collectors in this space, or the larger ones, are actually, probably from the East as well. So I think in the past few months, especially during coronavirus, I think the art sales actually declined a bit. I think the West, but then it was actually going pretty stable somewhere in Asia, Hong Kong, around the area. So it's fantastic to see what you guys are doing. So just to give you guys a quick shout out, TRLabs' first drop, Transient Eternity by Tai Guoqing, essentially turns the ephemeral into the eternal, right? And grants you guys an explosive start, literally. So can you guys tell us a little bit more about how this partnership with Tai came to be?
So I think Xing would be the best person to start talking about this, and then me and I can add on.
So our first project actually is we working with the institution, and the Shanghai Rockbound Museum, also the first one we partner with, commission the artist, and of course when we think about which artist, Tai Guoqiang is the obvious choice. First, he opened the museum 10 years ago, the first exhibition. And so now it's the 10th anniversary, and no one can think of a better artist than Tai Guoqiang, because he's always very, very innovative and always using a different medium as his creation, inspiration. And right now, for example, he has a show at the Shanghai Pudong Museum, and there's some Mia actually went to see the show, and he using a technology. It's not just a painting, not just a sculpture. So when we were talking about the first job we shoot, and we want to have the Chinese connection, so we want to have the first work by Chinese artist, but he's not just a Chinese artist, he's a well-known internationally, and he's been doing a solo exhibition in all the major museums in the world. So the first work basically is in his last 5-6 years, all the works all the exhibition he did for like a Prado Museum, Uffizi Museum, the Met Museum, and Guggenheim in New York. So we work with him hand in hand from day one to explore the idea, how to finalize his idea. And because this is his first NFT as well, and so all of us we basically like a family. We have a discussion, and we have also him toward to the end, from every second. You will see tomorrow when the work drop, and you will see the whole thing. So we would say we are very proud of the work, and we are very proud we work with Ty.
Just as a quick pun, I feel like I'm going to be blown away. I had to do it. But absolutely. I mean, he was a director of visual and special effects for even the opening and the closing ceremonies of the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing, which when I read that, my mind was just blown. Sorry.
Yes, I mean, it's a giant footprint.
1,000%. Absolutely love it. And yeah, and I think, I even watched some of the documentaries that essentially created an art piece, which was a centerpiece of the Netflix documentary Sky Leather, which, by the way, I recommend all of you guys to check out. It's awesome. But absolutely, I think this is an amazing representation of what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see what is in store on the 14th on Wednesday tomorrow. So go ahead.
One thing I do want to add that is and this is how we want to work with other traditional blue chip artists as well, is that Ty himself was very fascinated by the NFT space, and he was very much so, aside from our conversations, trying to learn as much as he could about, what work he could do on the blockchain, and what work that he could put out digitally that would be different from the work that he's done before. And what's coming out tomorrow, Transient Eternity, I just think it's such a special artwork, and it's been a pretty easy sell for Ty lovers, because it, unlike any other of the artist's works before, where all the other artist's work pieces were results of his explosions and gunpowder, whereas this actually captures the birth creation moment of the piece, which it's never been done before. So the artist himself really thought a lot about how to use the mechanics of blockchain to kind of subvert time and to freeze time in that second where it was impossible to be frozen before. So I really do love that he has taken the time, to collaborate with us and to learn about the space. And we really hope to have more partnerships like this, instead of just like having traditional artists come on to the NFT world without really thinking deeply about what that means.
Absolutely. One thing I love is that I love that, when artists actually come into a space, especially traditional artists, when they come in being hands-on, wanting to learn more and educate themselves over creating. So it's not just about creating, but it's also about learning through the process. So I absolutely love that. I think it's beautiful. So I think that from an interview that I saw with Xin Li and Mia, I think with Amber, you guys mentioned that there's actually been quite a few collectors, especially Ty's collectors over the last 20 years, who's essentially been very interested in the drop. So so Xin Li just let us know that, she hasn't been able to sleep, and Audrey either, and I'm sure Mia hasn't either, because they've been so excited about the drop. So I absolutely can't wait to look at the results. But speaking about Ty's drop, right? I mean, the 101 ignition moments that form the NFT, as you mentioned, come from the pieces that Ty created during his tour in the individual's journey throughout Western art history. So Ty's works are very thoughtful and deeply related to the media they're in. So what should we expect in relation to this drop, from its conception to the auction method?
For sure. And in terms of its conception, and I think we alluded to it in our earlier call, is that it is unlike any of the other artworks from the artists that you've ever seen before. It will blow you away. I was so excited after I first saw it. It's very dynamic, a very exciting piece, and really quite special for an artist. And I think the artist himself has also just thought so deeply about what it means to freeze time and what it means to be on the blockchain and what it means to be an NFT, that he thought he was particularly struck by time and how we can play around with it now in the digital world, and had a lot of conversations with us in terms of like what this artwork would ultimately look like and how it would ultimately be produced. in terms of the auction, it is going to be on our website, trlab.com. Would love for everyone to make an account and sign up. It's not too late yet. And it's going to be a really transparent auction. You can see everyone else who's bidding on the page. The bid history is going to be open to any viewers. And we're super excited about it. Singh and I were just talking to a couple interested collectors who found out about the drop yesterday and are now really asking us a lot of questions about how they can participate. But the reality is that it's not like a traditional art auction where, you know, you really need to know the right people to be put in the right calls. It's going to be very transparent, and anyone who wants to bid can bid.
Amazing. And speaking of questions, our community questions are really pouring in. I think that everyone has a lot of questions about the platform and the drop. So I'm super excited. And I will be bringing in some of the community questions during this interview as well, just to make sure that we're getting some, answering some of the questions from the floor as well. But something that I'd love to know is, speaking about, creating a platform, I know that there's a lot of challenges or tailwinds that you might face, like, the cold start problem and things like that. So I guess what I would like to know is, what are a few of the challenges you guys have faced in developing an NFT platform, and a brand new one as well, and how did you guys deal with them?
I will say that I think the hardest thing for us has been figuring out remote management. Like a lot of other crypto companies, everyone works remotely. But for us, seeing as in Europe, I'm in New York, our tech team's in Shanghai. We really have people in maybe 5 or 6 different time zones. So it's been hard to figure out a way to get people onto the same page and onto the same time. And in a meeting operationally. And that's what we've been, I would say, struggling more operationally. But now we've set up more of a system where, every Monday morning, Hong Kong, nighttime at 8 p.m., we'll have a call. I will say, in terms of designing a platform, what we then focused on most was how to kind of have a platform that would service our 2 target audiences, right? There's the traditional collectors, but there's also the crypto collectors, and what they're expecting and what they're used to in terms of an auction is super different. So in our product design and in the user flow of our platform, we thought a lot about not, being so avant-garde and so new that our traditional collectors would not be able to come onto the platform and successfully register themselves, but also not be so old and so typical that the newer crypto community would find the platform uninteresting. So it was pretty tough to strike the balance between the two, and we're definitely still in the midst of figuring that out.
Absolutely. And so one question that is to Xin Li is, how is the curation experience different from traditional to digital? I know that you've started curating or collecting your own NFT collection, which is fantastic, to learn more about the collecting habits and the different NFTs on this platform. But I just love to see, how do you know what artists will appeal to the crypto community, and how do you decide which artists to onboard onto your platform?
Hi.
Hi again.
For us, I think it's very simple, because we want to bring the best art to the crypto world. And the end of the day, we can talk crypto, digital art, but it's like, as Audrey said, it's a different form of art. And so for us, like, when we think about artists we want to choose, we want to work with, is whose art will last long, in 50 years, 100 years, still here. We don't want to just bring anyone on the platform. And so we will, from, Thai, and also in the future, every artist, we have discussion in different, sometimes we will also look at their past, and if they are interested in digital art, because some traditional artists, they are still figuring out what NFT is. And some NFT artists, they're working, for them, they've been working for the last 10 years, 15 years. But we want to see if their art is, we want to find the point that everybody can understand, and we can lead some to the new way.
Absolutely. I think it's an interesting point that you pointed out, right? That you're trying to find art that is timeless, that is really going to stand the test of time, which is really essentially what the blockchain is trying to do, right? They're trying to create NFTs that can stand the test of time and it's going to be on the blockchain forever. So I think it's a great point, right? It's that, like, how do you differentiate between what is fashion art or not fast art? So, you have fast fashion, right? So there's trends and things like that, like funny art. Like, I think even on the blockchain recently, there's been something like trash art, which is not trash art. It's not literal, but it's a meme art, something like that. So I love that point that you brought up, and how do you differentiate and how do you onboard artists that will appeal to the community? Absolutely. So I think in terms of that, right, in terms of like onboarding artists, so what do you think is so building on that, right? So what do you think is the NFT roadmap to mass traditional adoption? And what do you think the criteria mainstream collectors are looking at before considering investing in crypto art?
So let me take the second part of your question first, because we've been dealing with that a lot, because we have been talking to a lot of traditional collectors. And I think we see two cohorts of people right now. One is there are a lot of traditional collectors who are actually very interested in learning about the space, but they don't really know where to go to do so. Like they ask us questions and they say, like, look, like, yeah, I usually have when I have questions about artists or art forms, I will talk to, traditional curators, art institutions. But now with NFTs, there are no institutions I can go to that's kind of can give me an expert knowledge. And we explained to them that what our generation is looking for is a really different from kind of an expert curated truth. It's more of a community driven expertise in terms of like defining what the NFT space is going to look like. So we've been talking to a lot of those collectors, and they're really deeply interested in thinking about NFT's position within the art world. So what does it mean? What art movement does it follow? Does it come from abstract expressionism? And those are the main questions that they're focused on. However, we also have another group of collectors who are much more interested in the long-standing stability of the space. Like they ask us, like, do you think NFTs are just a trend that's going to go away? And I mean, the fact that we've devoted our time to doing this platform means that we clearly don't, right? But it's they're grappling a lot with whether they think that NFTs is just a hype, and that's something where in the crypto world, it's going to be a bubble that's going to explode and then it's going to completely fade away. So what we tell those collectors is that, we don't believe in that. We think that we need to, if we want to survive, we need to look to the future. And now, in thinking about the younger generation, what they're looking for, it is NFTs. Like people like us, Anissa, like I think you and me, we are younger. We live in the digital generation. We grew up having our identities in the digital world be just as important, if not more important, than our identities in the physical world. And I think that is going to continue developing. And when we explain that vision to our collectors, they become much more inclined to being willing to participate in the NFT world and opening up to learning about it. Having said that, going back to your first question, I think this we do think that there will have to be channels where the crypto world opens up to the main world more by showing who we are and talking openly in channels that they find easy to access. So for us, it's obviously mainly been a lot of one-on-one conversations and talking to people. But in the future, what we want to do on TRLab is also offer a community and a forum space where crypto leaders and NFT leaders can talk with art leaders and really have that joint dialogue, which we think we haven't seen as much as they should have happened. And Xing and Mia, feel free to add on to anything I've missed.
That was perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the point when you mentioned about trend, right? And people worrying like, oh, is this a bust? I know people are worried about, when the cycle is in a lull, especially because, they're in that, panic mindset. They're like, what's going to happen? Oh no, this is a bubble. It's going to burst and everything is going to essentially go away. But essentially, the NFT and NFT art isn't a trend, right? But it's actually a necessary cornerstone in the emergence of digital art as a commercially viable asset. So you're right? As like digital art just continues to garner more attention in this age, NFT technology is essentially going to be providing it with the foundation of commercial viability, right? Its provenance and scarcity. And I think that one thing that's great is that, when you're connecting more to these traditional platforms, more people are getting exposed to this message. So I think that it's amazing. However, how you explain, what NFTs are to the older, more mature audience, I can understand that it can be a pretty challenging feat. And so how do you guys, do that? Like, how can you, how do you explain this to the more mature audience that may be technologically challenged and yet still be an influx of capital?
Yeah, so for sure, I was trying to explain NFTs to my grandma, which it's maybe even tougher than someone who knows how to use a phone. But the way I explain it is, and I like to use this analogy that in the physical world there's Mona Lisa, and even if you had an exact copy of the Mona Lisa, of like you painted the exact same thing or you took a picture of it and made it the exact same dimension, it's not Mona Lisa, and there's it's very easy to distinguish the difference because the real Mona Lisa is in Paris, right? But in the digital world, there's never been a way to preserve the scarcity. Where digital artworks, it's it's a meme, it's a screenshot that you take and you share with your friends. There's been no way to trace this ownership and the creator of the artwork and preserve the integrity of the artwork itself. And I just say to them, like, imagine, that in the digital world now, there's this folder containing a contract and a code that's permanently attached to an artwork, where anywhere you can take this artwork in the digital world, you can see that this is the actual Mona Lisa versus a copy of the Mona Lisa that someone may be using. And I found that analogy of like a folder permanently attached and also using Mona Lisa and a copy of it has gained some traction. But I'm also definitely still brainstorming ways to explain it to them in more traditional language. And I don't know if Mia and Sing, if you guys have any different experiences to share here, but I found it to be really funny.
Yeah, that's very similar. When I explaining what NFT is to collectors who used to collect Monet, Picasso, and Rothko, and the question they ask is why I want to own something that I can have access just going to YouTube or Instagram and I can see the same image. And so I always say it's the ownership, because you can look at but you don't own it. And if you want to own this, you have to just come to TRLabs and you have to get the digital wallet and to own it. And I believe in the future, like Audrey said, the younger generation, they may not showing artwork on their wall, but it's on their phone or on the screen, on the computer, and showing what, to share what I have in my digital wallet.
Yeah. I usually say, like, if we fundamentally believe in the idea that a parallel universe, aka the metaverse, is going to emerge, which we're seeing, and crypto, Bitcoin or DeFi sort of act as like the base layer of financial infrastructure for this world, then like mirroring the real world, right? Other than financial systems, what other things will exist, right? And then obviously art is one of the first things that will come to everybody's mind.
Absolutely. So I think art is timeless, right? Again, as we mentioned before, like unlike gaming, which has a life cycle or anything else, art is timeless. As long as you've chosen the right projects, it will escalate in value. But that said, I'd love to bring it back. You guys mentioned the Mona Lisa a couple of times. So like Da Vinci, Mona Lisa, Rodin's The Thinker, or Van Gogh's Starry Night, or Beyonce's This and the Swan Lake Ballet. For something to be timeless, it has to be a quality of being universally recognized, even if interpretation among, people varies. So in your opinion, what are some of the qualities of timeless art that are worth mentioning? And I'm going to direct this question to Xin Li.
Sorry, because I have a little issue with my.
No worries, no worries, no worries.
Can you please repeat one more time?
Yes, no problem. So I heard the word Mona Lisa get mentioned a couple of times, and again, the word timelessness, right? So essentially, like Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, or Rodin's A Thinker, or Beethoven's Fifth, the Swan Lake Ballet, or Van Gogh's Starry Night. For something to be timeless, it has to have a quality of being universally recognized, even if interpretation among people varies. So in your opinion, what are some of the qualities of timeless art that are worth mentioning?
You mean in the NFT space?
Yes.
Because I didn't really get the question, sorry.
Oh, no worries. So what do you think it means to be timeless art? So what do you think are some of the qualities of timeless art? Yeah.
The quality of the timeless work of art.
Yes.
I think that basically, art is very personal, and the reason everybody love Starry Night is that when you stand in front of it, you feel the connection, you feel emotion. So I think even as a digital form of art, it have to bring the emotion out of people. And people sitting in front of a Rothko, some people can sit in front for hours and then crying and laughing because a certain color, certain just mood. The great art have to have an emotion, and even in the digital form, even those animation, because there's a reason the younger generation feel the connection, because it's how they grow up, and like Audrey said, that's part of their life they lived in. So I think the great art timeless is bring the emotion out of people, and people can feel the connection.
Absolutely. I think you said it beautifully. So I think there's a huge market for trading, right? Like selling and buying of NFTs in this market. And some people can, and they do just collect for the financial aspect of it, but always collect only what you love. I think that's really just the baseline here, which is awesome. So speaking of art, right? Speaking of what you collect and things like that. So like a lot of the main reasons on why people essentially participate in auctions is because of the bespoke experiences, the action, and really getting to know the artist. How will this translate in terms of online bidding?
So I think I can start with taking a stab at answering that. Is that we decided to go for a very transparent bidding process to kind of mimic the excitement that you see in auction house, where you have instead of just seeing the price going up, you feel a lot more like you're participating in something. You can see what other people are joining and what they're trying to do, and you can see like maybe there are a couple active bidders who are very much trying to stay in front, or maybe there's someone who tries to swoop in at the very end. In referencing to some of the auctions, the great auctions that's happened before. But in the future, what we're really focused on in terms of our product roadmap is how to offer a more bespoke experience to our collectors. So one of the things that we're exploring is actually having a hardware wallet. Thanks to Mia, we're actually partnering with One Key and another one of Dragonfly's portfolio companies, where they'll be coming up with a very exciting, I'm not going to share too many details, very exciting product that's going to help us bring the NFT experience into the real world. And that's just one of the many things that we want to do in terms of making our auction experiences more bespoke and more unique and catered to our audiences.
That is beautiful, and I cannot wait. I am literally at the edge of my seat. I am so excited to see what kind of products you guys come up with. But just as a wink, wink, blink, blink, we will also be launching a TRLab early access channel in our Discord just 30 minutes before the drop, so that you guys, everyone listening can speculate about the final price of the drop. And the person who gets it right will be getting some whales. So be sure to keep your eyes and ears peeled for 8:30 a.m. ET. Definitely go check out the auction and pay close attention if you want to earn some airdrops. Absolutely.
Amazing.
So, I love it. I cannot wait to see all of the answers. So Audrey, so I know that half of the auction proceeds are going to go towards the drop, or the auction proceeds for the drop are going to go towards the Rockman Art Museum in support of your development or the development of the Digital Art Research Program. And the other half goes towards the Thai Foundation in support of the Asian Cultural Council, the ACC Thai Fellowship Program, which funds young Chinese artists studying in the United States. Can you tell us a little bit more about these programs and their importance?
Yes, for sure. So, as Singh mentioned earlier, we partner, Rockman Art Museum actually commissioned for Thai to do this artwork, kind of as a callback to their exhibition, their opening exhibition with Thai 10 years ago. It's also a great kind of circle back for me because I was a tour guide for that very exhibition. So it's awesome to see, them taking a new step together into this new world now. Both of these foundations are extremely important. For Rockman Art Museum is to build out their digital presence. As a lot of other institutions, Rockman has been very deeply thinking about what it means to be exploring digital art and NFT as part of that, and what does it do to change the structure of the art world and the conversations that they should be having as an institution. And so this will go towards a lot of their digital efforts in terms of working with digital communities and events and artists in the future. For Thai's foundation, that's also so important. I think I'm always for anything that is in support of art and culture. And I think it's a great cause for, as you said, to support young Chinese artists to go study in the US. And we felt like it was perfect for us because it also matched our East-West global perspective in terms of that. We think that, art should be boundaryless. And we like that Thai was very much so focused on having his supporting people get a more global look and a global take on the art space itself. One thing I do want to add that in terms of the future, we definitely plan on continuing to work with institutions and maybe philanthropically or to support the institutions themselves. But we think that there are many ways that NFTs could be a different revenue stream for institutions that can be used well, and that can really sorry, I hear a little bit of an echo. That can really deduct the distance that viewers might experience with institutions nowadays. So we're very much so focused on being a part of that conversation and helping institutions and artists get closer with collectors and forming a community.
Absolutely. Again, I think drawing into the community aspect of it and drawing more people into the conversation to talk about NFTs, why they collect, and really sharing that passion is really going to propel the ecosystem in the space altogether. That said, this is going to be the last question from me before we hear from the community. But the NFT space founded so many new listing methods. We went from to traditional, the Dutch auctions, to now we have blind auctions, mystery boxes, to drop systems. And essentially, these drop systems are the bread and butter of platforms, right? So what kinds of auctions or sales or listing methods in the future should we expect to see in your platform, or that you guys are open to doing?
So right now we're focused on two different ones, and one of them is actually a surprise coming up. So I'm not going to share too much information. But as you know, we have a Taipei's one-of-one coming up. But we also plan to do more community-driven events where the artist really, wants to give back to his supporters and collectors. And so there's going to be different ways we play with that in terms of giving back. Maybe it'll be a limited edition that it's not going to be as much of a high-end auction. Maybe it's going to be a conversation that the artist would offer in tandem with future offerings. But I'm sorry, we cannot share as much there yet. But then we'll make sure to share with the WELL community whenever we do publicly announce what we're planning on doing.
There's so many surprises. I can't wait. You guys are like throwing me surprises left and right. I don't even know how to respond. And the community's the same way too. Everyone is incredibly excited. But again, I love that when, artists, after they do drop, and especially Chai is wanting to, give back to the community and the community that's supporting them. Not only is he coming to the space, but he's also willing to share his art with other people and new collectors, especially coming to the space. So I think what you guys are doing are wonderful. And that said, thank you so much for answering my questions. But now we're going to be moving on to the community segment of the questions. Yeah, so be ready. Get ready.
Awesome.
Awesome. So number one, is it difficult navigating the NFT space with the recent influx of users? How do you keep your NFTs relevant enough to be popular with so many new NFTs daily?
I think I'll hark back to what we said earlier, where we're less focused on hype and more focused on the inherent value of the art piece. We think that there are going to be a lot of ups and downs in the NFT space, and one way for us to be a long-standing platform is for us to focus on the long-term value of our art piece and really deeply think about the curatorial and artistic value that it'll offer. For example, for Ty's piece, we thought a lot about what can Ty do differently that he hasn't done before as he's exploring NFT and as he's exploring NFT art and stylizing his art in a way that he hasn't done so before. So we are less worried about we're less worried about the hype and the ups and downs as much as we're focused on our central thesis, which is that NFT art is the future and we will be a part of it by offering what we deem to be great art.
And just as a heads up, I'm just letting everyone know that these three wonderful women have essentially been sleepless working with TRLabs. Just there's some amazing stuff. I have no idea how they are still awake and looking brilliant. But anyways, just as a follow-up question. So essentially, what is a long-term horizon for your TRLabs? So what can we expect from you guys next?
I think we've given a lot of winks too as to like what is to come. But I would say in terms of long term, I mentioned earlier that we're focused on the words curation and connection, and I think our focus on the curation has become more and more evident throughout our conversation. But in terms of connection, we are focused on thinking about it in three ways. One, in terms of the relationship between artists and collectors. What does it mean to have a direct interaction, and how can we provide that? And the other is the connection between the digital and traditional world. What are the ways in which we can incorporate either into each? Sorry, not traditional, physical world, but you know what I mean. And the last but not least is a relationship between institutions and a new generation of viewers. How can we support institutions in catering to this new generation? And how can we successfully predict and figure out what this generation wants and is looking for? So I will say that all of our future launches and products and developments are centered around these two keywords and then these three key pieces within connection.
Beautiful. And this question is from me as well. How does crypto art essentially go mainstream, right? And why do you think aren't mainstream institutions adopting crypto art as quickly as they should be?
I think Mia would answer this question amazingly because she gave a pitch to me when I was first brought up.
As well. You guys are not only pitching other people, you're pitching each other. This is
Yeah, I mean, I think the pathway was less evident a few months back, and now that I think that bridges, people who can bridge these two worlds are critical in terms of really driving that adoption moving forward. So I think fundamentally, NFT art should be discussed in a broader context of digital art, and I think it's a fantastic technology to give a functional and effective marketplace for digital creators. And so but then I sort of thinking it from two folds. One is more the top-down approach, which is kind of pushing the dialogue and a narrative with these institutions like museums and auction houses, and I think Xin and Audrey are the ones that are pushing that narrative. And then the other is more grassroots and from the digital creators, the younger generations coming in. I think that I think a lot of platforms out there OpenSea and Makerspace, Super Rare are already supporting this younger generation of creators to come in, and I think TRLab is also down the road on the roadmap as well.
Absolutely. I think what's amazing as well, I think Twitter is recently making NFTs as well, and eBay and Amazon. I'm sure all the Silicon Valley companies are working hard creating NFTs for their platforms as well, since it's been driving so much buzz. So another question from our community is, Asia was a bit slow to catch up in the digital space, right, in NFTs. So how do you think Asia, or how do you see Asia's changing role in the digital art world is going?
We're actually really excited about this because actually in terms of the traditional art world, we've also always seen Asian collectors kind of at the forefront of being more willing to explore new kinds of art forms and new different types of art. So I think for now, what we need to do together as the NFT community is to be able to communicate with people and bring them into our community. And I think TRLab is going to be very much so focused on crafting that conversation and eliciting more different avenues of ways for people, such as traditional collectors, to find out about NFT art. And so we think that the future is very bright. We think that Asia is going to be the leading space of NFTs, and in thinking about crypto art as well as it has been for traditional art. It has been a bit slower to happen, but we think that it will. We're expecting this change we're seeing it happen in the circles around us, and we think that the change will be coming kind of like a wave the next year or so.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think as we evolve, right, I think especially the evolvement of the role of Asia is going to become more prominent, as you mentioned. So it's going to be exciting and a dynamic way to see how that role is going to change. But, I think, right, a lot of we're seeing a influx of celebrities really coming to this space, right? But I think so far they haven't quite yet been able to really transform their fans into NFT collectors. So do you think traditional art collectors are ready to start collecting in the digital?
I think a smaller cohort has been convinced and are looking deeply into space. And then I would say the other two cohorts are the two that I mentioned earlier, ones that are, curious in learning about how the space follows art movement, and the other in thinking about like the long-term stability of the space. But either way, we really have been seeing a switch, just even in talking to having one-on-one conversations with our collector friends, of people just being much more interested in what we're doing and wanting to hop on the phone with us and to hear about what NFTs are. So we're hopeful that we think that traditional collectors will be coming on, and we think that it will be like a platform like TRLab to start onboarding traditional collectors into the space and get them more familiarized, because we have people who know how they think more than I think some of the other NFT platforms do.
Absolutely. I love that, especially I think Mia studied psychology back there as well, so maybe this can help in this segment in investor psychology. I love it. Yeah, and so in terms of, collecting and things like that, how can the transparent nature of the blockchain reconcile with traditional art collectors in the world where anonymous bids are common? So I know that everything is decentralized, everything is very transparent in the blockchain. Do you think that more traditional art collectors will be comfortable with this new form of bidding? Or is there, an anonymous option as well for bidding on your platform?
So for us, our usernames are completely public, but they are free to utilize whatever usernames they'd like to pick. I think that traditional collectors are starting to be more familiar with the idea that that you can have a separate digital identity to what your identity is in the physical world that won't affect your privacy. And I mean, we see that with so many of the great NFT collectors today. So we have a lot of traditional collectors that have been talking to us, brainstorming, fun usernames that they can pick. And that's actually been a really interesting conversation to have, where they're actually really excited to be a part of such a transparent process, as once they know that, their privacy won't necessarily be affected. And I think that's like a benefit of the blockchain process and the NFTs, that it's not possible to do so in the traditional world.
Absolutely. And so in terms of, collecting art, right? Like in terms of the joy of it, or in terms of collecting psychology, I guess, more of it, what do you think collectors enjoy most? And I'm going to direct this to Xin Li. Do you think collectors enjoy the hunt associated with collecting art, or the joy of ownership?
Definitely both. because the ownership is, I think, it's a human nature. Everybody wants to own something.
Yes.
And yes, and the handing of the great art is also once you start collecting, and even it's a coins or basketball player cards, and the moment you start collecting your first item, you basically hook on something for a long way to go. So, and if you are an art collector, it's just a time, from old master collector transition to a modern art, to a contemporary art, to today's NFT art. Because I've in the last decade, working in the auction houses, I've been seeing so many collectors. 5 years ago, they wouldn't even look at contemporary art, and now they're probably one of the biggest contemporary art collector. And the same with the NFT. So I think it's just the word collecting is no limit. And this is how when we engage with the collector in the different fields, that as long as you give them time and to explain them what NFT is and why this is the future, and people are very open.
Absolutely. I think you answered that beautifully. I think even though we've seen, a lot of celebrities and influencers and artists coming to this space collecting art, right? We're really seeing this shift into the creator economy, because NFTs are really the conduit in which creators are coming into this space. And so it's definitely exciting times, but I think it just really stands testament to the fact that, this is really for everybody, and NFTs are really here to stay. So I love everything that you just said. So as we are nearing the 1 hour mark, there is one final question that I'd like to ask you guys. But before that, I would just like to check something with you guys. Are everyone here art collectors or NFT collectors? Does anyone have an NFT collection here? If you do, raise your hand.
It's for guests.
Do you guys have NFT collections, or do you guys collect NFTs?
I have a small.
No problem. And if you have one NFT, you're an NFT art collector. So if you guys had to choose, and I know this is a tough one, if you guys had to choose just one NFT, your favorite NFT, what would it be? Which one? I know this is a tough one, but you guys had to choose. I'm putting you guys on the spot. You guys asked for hard questions. So I'm going to start with, let me see who. Mia. I'm going to start with Mia.
I'll say CryptoPunk. Yeah. I think that the aesthetics of CryptoPunk and the way that it got distributed really embarks the start of a broader NFT movement. So I think it's an iconic piece.
It absolutely is iconic, and we have to see that CryptoPunk later. Hopefully we can send it to the stream text. I think everyone would love to admire it. Audrey, your favorite NFT and why?
I really could not pick a favorite NFT, but I would say I've been following Daniel Arsham very closely, and I love his work. And I'm sorry, I've never been able to pick a favorite anything. But I would say Daniel Arsham. But I like to go on Maker's Place and Super Rare a lot, and just look at the newer artists that are coming on and hear their stories and do research. So every week I'm discovering, new artists that I'm interested in. So it's just so hard for me to pick a favorite. Sorry.
You copped out. I can't believe it. And Xin Li, what is your favorite NFT and why?
I'm also on Audrey's side. It's difficult to pick up a favorite, because I followed CryptoPunks. I followed the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the Monkeys, but I have to say I'm fascinated by Park, because when I look at his works, that's what actually got me into the crypto world first, because I still try to understand, and this is what I'm still working on today. I'm still try to understand the whole metaverse, blockchain, crypto, NFT, this whole thing. And when I look at Park work, it's like Inception, the movie. You watch over and over, try to understand what he's doing. So I'm fascinated.
Absolutely. And I think one thing you're going to love knowing is that PAC actually designed our whale logo.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
No, I can't stop looking at it. It's
Wow.
just, yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I love all the,
Yes.
it's all the technology he used, the mindset, the concept, the ideas. It's just every time I read what he said, I was like, oh my God, there's a new door just opened. So,
Exactly. And the funny thing is no one know who PAC is. Is it, a multitude of people? Is it more people? Is it AI? No one knows. But I guess I'll keep you guys updated if I find anything new. I hope you guys will keep me updated if you guys find anything new as well. But that
amazing.
said, I love it. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining this series of Whale FM. It was an absolute pleasure having you guys. And again, Transient Eternity is going to be a 48-hour auction on the 14th this Wednesday. And so make sure to check that out and join the TRLab early access channel 30 minutes before the drop if you want to get some whale. Maybe you can think about the price, what the final auction bid is going to be. I'm going to be dropping I'll be dropping a speculation as well. Maybe I'm super off. Maybe I'll do 20 million. I'll just do 20 million. I'm guessing. I'm doing a speculation. I'm going to be participating as well.
Are you saying, are you saying Hong Kong dollar?
No,
US dollar.
US dollars, not Hong Kong dollars. Oh my gosh. That's soon. I love you. Thank you so much for joining. Have an amazing day and take care.
Thank you so much, Anissa. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and we're so happy to be a part of the law community and continue learning and engaging about the NFT space. I have so much more to learn, and I feel like I shared with you before, a month in the space feels like a year. So I'm just so excited to continue growing and learning. And thank you so much for having us on.
Absolutely. This is the first time you've heard of TRLabs, but this will definitely not be the last. So definitely check them out, and we will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.